Welcome to Deep Thought, the will to act, right? And I kind of got that from this clip from the movie Batman Begins, when Ra's al Ghul was telling Bruce Wayne, you got to have the will to act. And that's what it come down to, because that is the will. That's the very nature of the will. I will do something. That means you are making a conscious effort to take an action. But you have to have the will to do it. If you want to quit smoking or something, you have to have the will to quit smoking, right? If you want to approach that woman, or increasingly as women want to approach that man, you got to have the will to do so. You have to have the will to clean up your environment. You have to have the will to go get a job, to go look for it. You have to have the will to start on that book you've been promising for about 5 years, all right? Or to start a new channel. You have to have the will to do it, to start a business. You have to have the will to just go out there and say you're going to make a certain amount of money, right? You got to have the will to act. But see, one thing, the reality is, in most human beings, the will is effectively asleep. And just to be clear, having a strong will doesn't mean, shouldn't be confused with being stubborn. Because a lot of people are stubborn, but sometimes they're not stubborn because of their will. They're stubborn because they're being childish. And often when someone's being stubborn, doesn't have anything to do with the merits of the situation. They're just being contrary. Right? So it's a different thing. But most people, the will is effectively asleep. Now, you got stuff out there that say we shouldn't eat all this sugar we have. It's bad for us. But we're going to be able, how many of us going to still get that donut? Or get that ice cream, get that pie? And I ain't looking down on anybody saying that, because that's been me. It's like, it. You got, or a better one is smoking. Right? You got labels on it that say this is bad for you, but how many people know they shouldn't be doing this, but they don't have the will to stop? That's the will. Understand that is the will to act, the will to do something. Like, I will. I want y'all to think about that. I will do this. And it's tough, but it actually represents, the development of the will actually represents the ability to rise above your lower self. So your lower self, it's really more animalistic. It's instinctual. Right? It's your lower self, or people who fail to control their lower selves, that cause a lot of trouble out here. Because understand, if we had a critical mass of people who have fully developed this will in this society, you wouldn't need police forces. In fact, according to legend, the nation of Kemet, which the Europeans call Egypt, right? But the natives call Kemet. It was said they went a long period, they had such a high level of behavioral development of their will, that they didn't need a police force. Because here's the thing, here's the proof that society is jacked up. You wouldn't need laws if the will was normal in people, just a critical mass of people. You wouldn't need laws to keep people under control, or to get them not to do stuff that is harmful to the greater good. You wouldn't have to, you could leave your door open at night. You could leave your door open at night, because if people's wills were developed, nobody would just walk into your place unannounced. And ironically, you got indigenous cultures where their will is actually more advanced, because people don't steal from each other, right? Or people like getting in, ready to fight each other, or just doing negative stuff just to harm themselves, not even harm others, right? If the will was developed. But that's something to work on. Now, one of the best ways to develop the will is to consciously refrain from doing something, right? That's one of the purposes of Lent, to take away something and then you could do something. It's you have some men who talked about no fapping, no masturbation or something. That's a powerful thing. Think about how I want you to think about how powerful that is, right? You using your willpower not to do something that's very basic, very pleasurable. But if you can develop that, that's some power. In fact, in rites of passages in many indigenous cultures, that was the case. You know, the young men, and depending on culture, young women were taught how to ignore their will, ignore their animal impulses, to impose their will on their lower selves, right? But it's more than just you know, not doing something. It's making yourself do something, right? Because a lot of people know what they need to do in life or know what they want to do, but they don't have the will to actually do it. I mean, seriously, it's almost frustrating to me. I've talked to a lot of people, they have some plans or something, and they don't have the will to carry it through. It's not developed. And the worst part is they'll come up with excuses why they're not developing it. It's a crying shame to me. But it's something to think about. It's something to think about. The will to act, that's very important. Something to... I would say the society would be better if this was like a regular thing. If everybody, like the whole philosophy of the society was for people to develop their will. But really, society doesn't want that. And only way it'll happen is if you get a philosophical revolution, right? If you get a philosophical revolution where a critical mass of people say, look, we're going to develop our wills, you know? And the reason why I say that is the powers that be, the elite, they probably wouldn't want that. Is look how much money is made because people haven't developed their will. Think about it. If you look at, just sit back and look at all industries, the whole retail industry, the food industry, movie industry, any industry that requires that they sell stuff to people, right? Wouldn't make money if people actually developed their will. People wouldn't get a new car every year when they got a perfectly good car. Or they wouldn't buy new clothes just because some, fashion designer say, hey, you should wear this. Because they would be like, well, this stuff is still good. What I need a new thing for? People need powers that be, people making money need people to have an undeveloped will in order to make money with most products. I'm going to tell you what. I mentioned I've worked retail before. One thing around Christmas, they always have these tchotchke gifts. And that's what we call them, tchotchke gifts. Like their sole purpose is to be given as a Christmas present. And it's usually just some knick-knack that you could live without. But they make it novel enough to make somebody think, oh, wow, that's great. Knowing it was some bullshit, right? Knowing it was some bullshit. But if people's will would develop, if you had a critical mass of the will develop, please. Christmas holidays, people wouldn't make any money. You would have industries that would crash. The car industry, well, that's already crashing. That's something for my business channel. But a lot of people wouldn't buy stuff. They'd be like, well, this car's still running good. I don't need this. And that's the thing. Keep people asleep. Keep their will asleep. And you can still sell them stuff that would kill them. That you could put on the label, this could kill you, this could give you cancer, and people will still use it because their will is asleep. They don't have the will to act. So anyway, something to think about. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.